you know, I just want white, but you can get
you want
flashing and strobe and everything.
The MDMA podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer.
Updates. It somehow never seems to work.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you are...
Until the karaoke. There's always a chance in Vietnam, man. Karaoke can start it.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can ever teach you. Because you're going to have to learn that on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to pull that energy out of your mind on your own. There's no book you can read.
Brilliant. Are you in
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can ever teach you. Because you're going to have to learn that on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to pull that energy out of your mind on your own. There's no book you can read that all of a sudden I have it. I've got the technique now. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
No, it's a grind that you have to start and finish on your own.
Let me tell you a story about an illiterate kid. Air guitar lessons at 3, living stateside at 6, pot of philosophy geek. Thought he was born with a gift, but over 20 years later thought I could no longer subsist. While destroyed by misfortune and locked down in his crib in the shadow of wealth, where the corrupt banks lived, a single flicker of hope was all that kept him awake, burning all through the night. Every second of every day the script changed underneath. The very few could see the story was telling himself. His friends just couldn't believe he was on another planet station they couldn't receive, and it never shut off. An eternal heartbeat, an undeniable call, an unquenchable flame, an unavoidable path. Deltoric quest for his age, he left the valley of lost frequency tuned to perceive, hacking into commits and finally bridging the breach. The code world in his mind, like first learning to read, like a lifetime of red suddenly turning to green. So he opened a branch and turned over a leaf, auto passing the test like a database seed. A book that never been authored, movie never been played, a journey no one else living would ever seek to replicate, song that never been
sad. It was a complete setup. Like, we didn't even talk to him, didn't do anything, and he didn't.
And he's like,
believe
sure.
me.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can ever teach you. Because you're going to have to learn that on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to pull that energy out of your mind on your own. There's no book you can read that all of a sudden I have it. I've got the technique now. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
No, it's a grind that you have to start and finish on your own.
Let me tell you a story about an illiterate kid. Had guitar lessons at 3, living stateside at 6, part of philosophy geek. Thought he was born with a gift, but over 20 years later thought I could no longer subsist. While destroyed by misfortune and locked down in his crib in the shadow of wealth, where the Kura banks lived, a single flicker of hope was all that kept him awake, burning all through the night. Every second of every day the script changed underneath, but very few could see the story was telling himself. His friends just couldn't believe he was on another planet station they couldn't receive. And it
there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
we're coming for you, banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
That's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency, this is episode number 112, Bitcoin.com and BCH Resurgence featuring Corbin. Today is Saturday, the 30th of March, 2024. I forgot to update the slides. That always happens. I'm Jeremy, your host. Jet is doing the producing, same as always. And our guest is an OG Bitcoiner, a very, very long time and passionate Bitcoin catcher and recently promoted interim CEO at Bitcoin.com. Corbin, welcome to the show. How did you get into Bitcoin?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Man, I think the first, it's like 2013, 2014. Everything's a little hazy, you know. You can go back that far. I don't know. But my first Bitcoin that I received was through Reddit. Well, you guys probably I think
Tip right? They had changed it.
Yeah. So Change Tip was like predated Change Tip, Chain Tip. There was like, I think Chain Tip is the new BCH one, and then Change Tip was the OG one. Yeah. And I said something clever or stupid or something on some Reddit, and someone gave me like $5, and it was one of those like, what the hell is this? And started digging into what just occurred, and started putting 2 and 2 together that like I just received money over the internet. It wasn't through PayPal, wasn't tied to like a bank account, wasn't associated with an email. It was like an anonymous, just a stupid throwaway Reddit or something like that. And I made a little bit of money, and I was thinking that's pretty cool. And at the time I was running a web development business, and like taking payments from different people across borders and stuff like that. So dealing with PayPal, dealing with, just cross-border payments. And it was always a pain in the ass. So then started digging in more into this thing, and, just started buying and started playing around. And so kind of been involved, I guess, since then. I was one of the, I want to say brilliant people, but at the time it wasn't the most brilliant thing, that I've done. But I swapped all of my BTC and BCH like during August of 2017. So I was all in on big blocks, man. I was like ready to go. So yeah.
Well, it's funny you say about Change Tip and stuff.
Wasn't the best trade. Let's put it that way.
No, well, it depends what time scale you're looking at. If we wait long enough, it'll turn out to have been genius.
That's it. I'm in it for the long haul, guys.
But that was the thing about the whole change tip. It's funny you bring that up because it's hard to explain to people how huge that was at the time, right? Because Reddit, as we've mentioned many times before on the show, our Bitcoin, that was the center of the Bitcoin universe. Yeah. And the change tip bot, once that was created, it was obviously very popular in the Bitcoin subreddit, but then people started putting it into every other subreddit, and it became like a site-wide crisis because every other sub suddenly had people getting Bitcoin tips, and they all had to have a policy where they were like, look, what is this? What's going on? This is in every single comment thread. We've got to like ban this and shut it down, or maybe it's cool and we like it, and the mods of every different subreddit reacted to it differently, and then loads of people were like sort of insulted because they got given like 10 cents of Bitcoin and they hated it, and then some people were like, I remember that $5 and we're like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, but it is one of those. It's like, I mean, looking back now with like, I mean, hindsight, that was like the golden era of Bitcoin, where people were just using it for fun. And I'm happy that I got involved in Bitcoin when it was still fun. And then it, you know, over a few years, like I was just dabbling. I wasn't like a hardcore Bitcoin guy, you know. I thought it was cool, but it was like one of those, like, you know, I was collecting it, just not like involved in the community. You know, and I would still follow like some of the drama, you know, checking in on the subreddit here and there after getting some. But I think at some point I started seeing some of that censorship and some of the different vibe change. And then, yeah, at some point I ended up on RBTC, where it was like, yeah, you know, that's where all the cool people are, you know, all the fun's still happening over there, where you can't really have fun anymore with your Bitcoin over here. They're not really using it anymore. It's kind of started to change, and the vibes were totally different. And it started being a little bit more like, yeah, it was like more greed hype than it was utility and like fun. And then, but RBTC still had some of the utility, and I mean, there was still some greed and hype and stuff like that, with just, you know, number go up, you know, we're all human, but there was still this idea of adoption occurring, and free speech, and just, I'd say like a better community. I think I just vibe better with some of those people, where I felt like our Bitcoin, there was like, you got a lot of noobs in there, which were fine, but there was also like post after post where you're just like scrolling through the same shit, and it's just like this, okay, well, this question again, okay.
It's still like that, you know, if you go on there today, it's literally still like, I just bought my first 0.001 Bitcoin, and I'm going to try and stack up to however much money. See you all in the Citadel or something. You're like, oh God.
Oh, the Citadel, man, those were fun dreams.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe didn't pan out for too many of them. So then after the split, right, you were very involved, I believe. It's in the whole BCH movement, you know, right from the beginning there. What's your reflections on that period?
Yeah, I was involved in a few Slacks at the time, like a lot of the Bitcoin discussion related to the SegWit 2x, and just kind of like, if you wanted to be in on the loop on the latest stuff, there was like, our Bitcoin, you could kind of snoop on what's happening on like the new, you know, what's new, the new posts and stuff like that. So I'd do that, but then you kind of realize you're still getting it late. RBTC kind of sometimes would pick it up a little earlier from like these other chats, and then I don't know, just like talking to some different people and different mods and stuff like that, heard that there was this Slack where everyone was kind of like, that's where all the devs were talking, and you could kind of like be in on the inside. And so I just started lurking, and I think I can't remember the name of it. I think it was BTC Forks was kind of the main one. And, you know, inside there was like John Old, there was like Almery, there was and a lot of the people that are still around today were in there. And yeah, it was just kind of like a cool place to hang. I was kind of watching mainly just the, like, is this SegWit 2x thing going to activate? And there was just a lot of like, it's probably not. Everyone I think everyone in the Slack had kind of like come to the conclusion that this was all a big like smoke and mirrors act. Yeah. And then, so I think just kind of hearing from the devs, and they were kind of saying, you know what, we're just going to do it, you know, and like watching Amory kind of just be like, someone's got to do it. And there was like, I think the BU guys were in there still, and they're like, I think it was actually mainly their Slack. I think it was like the BU Slack mainly, but there was like some of the ABC guys were in there. And I think it was Omri that was kind of like, I'm just going to do it anyways. Like, I'm kind of done with those people. And I think like there's got to be a competitive piece to seeing this big block through, and we're going to force the miners' hands, and we're going to force everyone to kind of make a decision and put a gun to the head of, everyone. And I was like, man, that's hype. I love it. I love the kind of like, it's like a cowboy showdown of Bitcoin, of like, you're either with us or you're not. And then I was like, man, these guys are dope, So I was just kind of following all of that and thinking it was pretty cool. And yeah, I think during that period too, they were needing some help building out like the bitcoincash.org website. And there was kind of like an old clunky Wix, and then there was like a WordPress, and then Josh had kind of taken the first, Josh Ellithorpe, he was at Coinbase at the time. He'd kind of taken the first leap building out like a more modern stack website. And I just kind of started contributing it to it through GitHub. It was just like outside of my running my web development business. And just kind of, just watching YouTube documentaries on Bitcoin, and, seeing Roger, on these different documentaries, being like, man, that guy really gives a fuck, and watching all these, like, I was like all in on Antonopoulos, even though I knew he wasn't like siding with the big blockers. Man, he was like such a great speaker that eloquently put what Bitcoin had the potential of doing. And I think watching like, just kind of being surrounded around like by all these different people that were all kind of like living it, was just kind of cool. And ended up just being kind of a regular contributor. And then I think it was like, I'd ended up moving to Tokyo. And when I was in Tokyo, still just like working remotely, I had a bunch of clients in Canada and the US and a few other places. But you go to a new city, you go to a new country, you don't know anyone, right? I didn't speak Japanese. I wasn't like a weeb. I was just like, Japan seems cool. It's like something different than Saskatchewan, Canada. So I was like, let's go there, sure. Ended up kind of just being like, all right, I guess I should probably try to make some friends or something. I think that's what people do. So started going to Bitcoin meetups because, as if I didn't need more, like,
make friends. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like already living this thing on like Slack, and I was like, all right, let's go make friends with Bitcoin people. And, but yeah, at the time there wasn't a BCH meetup during, like within Tokyo. It was just kind of like one Bitcoin meetup, but it was fun, man. In 2017, you would have these drunken like debates with people in this like dingy Tokyo bar. It's just like you'd see big blockers getting in the face, small blockers. It was just like, it was the coolest thing ever. And I think on that Slack, I met this guy named Paul, and he had built like a transaction visualizer that was just like it was like dropping BCH. It made some cool sound effects and stuff like that. And at the time, I think I hacked together like a really shitty proof of concept, and it was like an ugly design. I was like, hey man, we should work together and try to make this thing not suck and actually like make it a cool visualizer to show BTC throughput versus BCH throughput, and kind of like just try to educate people visually what like a bigger block means and how it's a totally sane thing. So we created TX Highway. Unfortunately, it's now defunct. It's not online anywhere, but there's probably some YouTube videos of it floating around still somewhere. And and then we had a working version of this, and I think it was during this Bitcoin meetup I demoed it at the Bitcoin meetup, and one of the guys there was buddies with Roger, and I didn't know that, and didn't even I knew, like, I think I had heard Roger lived in Tokyo. But I was like one of those, like, I don't know. I'd never seen him at any of the meetups and stuff like that. And then demoed this thing. And then the next night I was having dinner, and I just got an email on my phone. It was like from Roger Ver. And I was like, this looks like a scam. It was a very like Steve Jobs like email. It was like one line. Like, I saw this website you created and I heard you're in Tokyo. Come to my office. It's like, what?
No negotiation, just an order.
Yeah. So at first I'm like, man, I don't know. Do I want to go work or take a job or like, I wasn't sure what to expect. So yeah, ended up replying saying like, sure, I'll come meet you guys and, see if there's something we can, work on together. And then, through there I met Emil and met a few of the other OG Bitcoin.com people and walked into the office in Tokyo, which is like, I don't know, for some reason in my head, because Bitcoin was already so big and BCH was so big in my head, I had this vision of like, I don't know, it's like something like a Bitcoin version of Google. Yeah. It was the opposite of that. It was just like a total shithole office with like boxes in the corner and like t-shirts and like stickers and like hacker den. And I was like, this is the coolest place in the world. I was like, I love it.
How many people was there?
It was like maybe 6 people just clacking away, and it was like eerily quiet. It's like a really like Japanese offices are a different vibe than like Canadian and American offices, where you have like guys talking on the phone. There's no talking on the phone in the Japanese office unless you're like, I don't know. It's just like there was like a vibe that was a little different that I wasn't used to. And I came in with like my big mouth and just like, hey guys, how's it going? And it was like weirdo, clacking away. And yeah, and then just ended up chatting with Emil. They had like I think they just were running it was like maybe a WordPress website with some other stuff, and they were trying to modernize their web stack and kind of make it better. And so I said like, sure, I'll try to help, see what I can do. Kind of thinking like, these guys are probably like way out of my league. I'm probably like a bit of a hack compared to some of these guys. And yeah, somehow I managed to do some stuff there where they were like, cool, you want to start Wednesday? And I was like, man, I run my own company. Like, I don't know if I can just like close down my business and just like let it go. And I got the vibe that they were like, we don't really give a shit. Like, are you in or are you out? I was like, all right, I'm in. So I, had to send that awkward email to my business partner to be like, look, I got a cool opportunity. Like, I'm just going to take a hiatus. Let's see where this goes. Maybe it all turns to nothing in a month and, I'll come back, but I just want to ride it out, see where it goes. And yeah, I've been there like 6.5 years since. So
sometimes when destiny calls, you got to just take the leap of faith, right? Any regrets? How's that web business doing these days?
No, it's actually, they're still around, man. Yeah, I ended up selling my shares, but no, I got no regrets, man. I still keep in touch with those guys, but no, it was the right leap of faith where it was just, I don't know. I think if you love something and you can find a way to bring that into your daily work, it really does make, like, I think for me at least, as being a web dev, like it started taxing on my brain the fact that I was building things for other people, but I couldn't see them through to completion. And in this, I didn't have ownership, right? So I was paid to like, hey, build this cool website for like my company, and it was like, hey, cool, we can do that. And then the budget eventually goes away, or the website finishes and then that's like it. You're like, all right, I guess my job's over. Gotta go hunt another one. So for me, it was like, I don't know, like at some point you kind of do enough websites where you're like, kind of gets a little repetitive. You kind of start feeling a bit like a assembly line worker. Yeah. So when it was kind of like, oh, this is like a different opportunity where I can kind of like learn a little bit more about Bitcoin development, learn about like, I don't know, practice more stuff that I wouldn't probably be exposed to just cranking out, medium to large size business websites. It was just like, this is, kind of challenged me. And it was the right choice, man. Yeah.
So you got that initial phase there in Bitcoin.com, and you're there while the BSV contention is heating up and then leading to the hash war. I said to you just before the show that I watched, there's a 8-hour stream.
You don't want to watch that. Don't watch that stream, guys.
It's so good. It's really good. I highly recommend anybody to go check it out. Was that you're in the office there? Is that?
Oh yeah. I think I can't remember if that was the one where we were drinking in the office. It was just like we were cracking new highballs. It was like Hash Wars was going down at like 2 a.m. So everyone was like bought in on this stuff, and I mean, like the vibes in Tokyo were cool, and it still is cool, but it was just like very much, we have the prices up, the blocks up, just keeping an eye on hash rate and stuff like that. It was a cool vibe, but like, seeing all that stuff kind of unfold was a cool moment. Yeah.
Well, do you have any reflections just on that period, especially whenever I have guests who've been, so involved in BCH? I really like to get a sense from them of, in my mind, those separate eras. You have the pre-block size war, the block size war, the sort of lead up, and then the BSV hash war, the XCC, and then sort of the modern era, and maybe now we're getting into the one after that, right? So on the BSV front, did you think that? You were pretty strongly on the BCH side, from my recollection. You were not buying into, Craig or anything.
So I got to meet Craig a couple times. Got drunk with him one night, and I don't know, man. It was always, for me, it was one of those things. It was like, could he or couldn't he be? I don't know. He said enough stuff where it was. I think if you were drinking enough and you were kind of letting his mouth run, it was kind of like a fun LARP, right? You could kind of let him LARP and be like, okay, Satoshi, sure, But then at the same time too, I was also, there's a few other Satoshis that were kind of out in that era as well. So there was this guy named Phil. I think his name was Phil.
Phil Wilson.
Yeah. And I was chatting to him a lot too. He was an interesting dude. I don't know if he's Satoshi either, right? But it was there was a lot of Satoshis at that time. It was entertaining the potential Satoshis was just kind of funny. So it was you didn't have to I don't think you had to totally buy in on it. You could just kind of be like, all right, man, if you're buying the wine, sure. So, I mean, I was never all in on Craig, that guy's definitely it. But it was just all right, he's one of the Satoshis, sure, okay. But yeah, it was I wasn't. I think at some point, because I was talking a lot to Shaman and Amari and Anthony Zenger from the ABC crew, and we would jam a lot on what's going on here. And I think just enough stuff was coming out too. Paul Stork had a great it was what was it? It was a Craig website, man. It was really good. It was just all the dumb shit he said over the years kind of compiled, where you start going through it enough, you're like, oh yeah, this guy's full of shit. But it was a fun LARP. And I think at the time when he wasn't creating drama, it wasn't so bad, but it, in hindsight, the BCH community letting him in and letting him kind of fester was, in my head, probably one of the worst things for BCH. But I think that the sad thing is a lot of the BSV guys were actually creating really cool stuff on BCH. And then it fractured so much of the vibes where there was people that we were, that I was friends with that I would man, I can't explain it. We had there's private Slacks trying to figure out all right, there was who is Cobra, trying to figure out who's behind Cobra. And there was these different teams trying to I don't want to say dox, but just are they a Fed? What's going on? Who are these people? And but all of these characters that were in that early BCH group, a lot of them just started fracturing off. And it was just people that were really interested and really all in on this whole idea of scaling Bitcoin, they just started petering off. And if it wasn't for the petering off from BSV, it was petering off to be maybe I'll go play around with ETH for a bit. This thing seems a little too tense for my liking. And, you'd lose people to other chains, or you'd lose people to other projects, and you'd be like, oh, yeah, that guy went to start his own thing. All right, whatever. Good luck to him, So yeah, I don't know. BCH was always kind of just, it's always been filled with drama and characters. And yeah, I think for me, that's always just kind of been one of the reasons it's kind of attractive, because it is kind of, it's very Macbeth. It's very, it's funny.
And so now, in hindsight, on that BSV stuff, especially with the very recent, Craig losing Cobra and stuff, do you have any reflections on that? Ryan X Charles has been capitulated pretty hard. A few of the other guys a bit more wishy-washy. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I on the one hand, I think if they're able to say, hey, let's come back and build on a big blockchain that doesn't have that tie, I mean, I don't see why people shouldn't welcome people back if they're going to build. You just kind of gotta, just understand who you're dealing with. But like, I've got some friends that were BSV people that stopped being BSV people as well, before this COPA stuff too. So like, it does happen, right? Like people just change their mind. They like at some point you kind of like have a come to Jesus moment of like something isn't adding up. And maybe for sometimes it's Craig, or sometimes it's just like, I don't know, this chain doesn't seem to be the thing that is the highest probability of being peer-to-peer cash for the world or something like that. So I think like, I don't know, man, like I think like the BSV fork was just so filled with like bullshit too. Like for sure, like, because there's even people like in the current BCH community that were like getting pissed at like the ABC people who were just kind of like Omri, for better or worse. And right with like the way BCH started was kind of largely due to his, fuck it, I'll do it anyways attitude, which I always loved. Not everyone loved that. And, I think there was stuff that were pushed through by ABC that could have reached better consensus in hindsight. I think like the big one was like op check data sig verify. Some of those ones, that was back in
also very controversial.
Yeah, there was a lot of just contentious stuff, and then the N-chain guys really hated it because they had all these weird patents that they would be like, well, we're going to dispute this, and you're not legally allowed to use this, and you're breaking law or something like that. And they were just like, fuck it, we're just going to do it. And I think at some point too, because I was in the Bitcoin Cash repo, I had put on the final review on OpCheck DataSig, and I was like, yeah, seems fine to me. I think it's cool if it unlocks some new cool features. Looks cool, guys. Gave it the thumbs up, and I don't know if I merged it or if I just approved it, but a couple people, I think, blamed me. At the time, there was a few people being like, Corbin caused the BSV split.
It was all your fault.
Yeah. I was like, how did this become my fault? I didn't build anything, man. I just approved the stupid PR or whatever it was. And I think at the time that was kind of, because I think that was what led the N-Chain crew and the BSV people to be like, all right, that's a line in the sand. We're out. We're forking off. And I think some folks drew that back somehow to me. I was like, whatever. Okay.
And then after that, you had the, BSV crowd found their way out, and it was Amori and etc. left in charge. But that didn't sort of last too long, and that's the bit of Bitcoin history I personally know the least about. What was that like?
Man, I think actually during that period it got strange too, because BSV was so well funded. They had like a bigger war chest, so projects were getting bought up and funded, but usually they would lose ownership. So like, Ryan X Charles's, some of his, I think he had Paybutton and a few other, projects and stuff like that. And there's a few other various, BCH that became BSV projects that got some funding from Calvin Air and the N-Chain crew and some of these other like BSV things that all kind of like tied back to that crew. They were just kind of like able to, I'd say, build faster because they had funding where they could bring on teams and designers and make some stuff a little prettier too. And then I think that started causing some resentment within the BCH community because a lot of other people were building stuff just in BCH, not in BSV, and they weren't getting anything. And then I think that's kind of when Flipstarter started, and then it became a bit of a drama shit show of like grifters showing up versus good people like trying to get stuff, and then good people not getting approved, and then grifters getting a full bag. And then it created this like weird contentious period where ABC was like, looking at what Bitcoin Core, the core development team for BTC, was being funded with. They had backing from the Blockstream, countless other like, bigger BTC groups and stuff like that. And ABC was like, where's my bag? We're operating off basically next to nothing. Maybe don't quote me on this, but most of their funding was coming from like Bitmain or Jihan or a few other like big blocker mining groups or things like that. And some of the pools might contribute some. But I think they always kind of felt like they were getting shafted. And then, I think there was some fundraising as well going on that created some additional drama. Bitcoin.com had a fundraiser to support like all of the node infrastructure, which created further drama because we weren't just funding ABC, even though they were the main like node for validating blocks. Like there was like, I think 80% of maybe more of miners were running ABC, and like some were running BU. And then, maybe a couple others running like Knuth or whatever it is, and a couple other like random ones. But so then I think that started creating some of the drama related to where's my bag, and then it became where's my bag Roger, and then it became where's my bag Bitcoin.com, and then it became like maybe we need a tax. And then that kind of led to IFP and some other, you guys probably got caught up from there. So yeah, just watching that all unfold, it was weird too, because I was kind of caught in a hard place where, I worked alongside the ABC guys for a long time, and I still to this day have utmost respect for what they do. They are extremely hard, talented workers. They just, like Omri, he's you either love him or hate him, man. But you know who else is like that? It's Roger, man. So it's like, it's kind of the same thing. You like, but Bitcoin Cash has characters, which I love characters, man. Like, maybe it's just growing up in like a small town, but like, when you meet like that weird zany uncle of like your buddy and you're like, that guy's mental, and you kind of just like want to be around him. It's like, you kind of like love it, cause it's entertainment, and you usually like learn some weird shit cause they got a weird, different perspective on the world that maybe, you don't typically get unless you're kind of like a character. I think just living a different type of life, having a different type of personality lets you see the world in a really unique way. And for me, being able to see that with, Omri, and being able to see that with Roger, and being able to see that with even Craig, dude's a weird dude, but like, characters make for interesting conversation and interesting chats. And they force you to reevaluate how you're perceiving reality, and it's cool. Yeah. So I mean, for me, but I did get kind of stuck in between where I was like, I work for Bitcoin.com, I support the ABC guys a little bit, but I gotta go. I gotta stick with the BCom guys. They butter my bread. So yeah.
I love this point about personalities, because that's also something I've also always loved about Bitcoin. Being its own thing. Like when people think of banking or finance, okay, maybe it has had some drama like The Big Short or whatever, but even that was post Bitcoin. Bitcoin really brought personality to finance, right? Because before that, it was like nobody's ever heard of the names of these big. Even now, there's like Jamie Dimon, he's the evil one, but the rest of them, there's not banker influencers or characters or like anything like that. But Bitcoin just had it right from the start. It was just like teeming with the zaniest, weirdest individuals and free thinkers and so forth. And it's still like that today. I love that the competition to the traditional system is like the most wackiest circus, like essentially. But it still works somehow. Like that's actually its strength, not its weakness, Yeah.
Like I kind of feel like this idea of characters, it draws people in to learn about money, because I don't know, you talk about Bitcoin as a concept, it's probably too abstract for the majority of people, technically, like philosophically, it's just a weird concept to kind of start wrapping your head around. But I think what typically draws people in is the people that are obsessed with it. It's kind of like when, people are attracted to, you're not attracted to a logo, you're attracted to the person behind that thing. So if it's like, I don't know, Virgin, maybe you're like a Virgin guy, you're like, I like that Richard Branson guy, he's people know him. There's always like characters behind these like really interesting, I don't know if it's corporations or projects or whatever. And to me, like Bitcoin had, it had Roger, it had Antonopoulos, it had a bunch of these, OGs that were just kind of banging that drum. And, Bitcoin Cash had a lot of those as well. And there are other projects, Ethereum's got Vitalik, they had other founders too, but most people can't even name, maybe Gavin, like there's a couple other like random people that you might be able to pick out, but like it's the characters that people remember. And I think that's kind of what draws most people into learning more about a project or a company or a idea, less so just like, a white paper.
Yeah, and now we've seen, so then eCash split away, BCHN got the W there, and then there was so the podcast started shortly after that, but there's a period in there where BCH was quite rough, really at low points, and that's now started to turn around. But from 2020 to 2022 ish, there was the CoinFlex disaster and everything. What do you make of that period?
Even prior to the CoinFlex bullshit, there was like vibes around BCH were low, and you could pick it up in Reddit, on Twitter, talking to people that were in early that were just like, I'm out, man, can't do another fork, and either a lot of people got out before the eCash fork that I knew very closely that were like banging the drum hardest on BCH. But then there was the initial of like a fork is happening again. I can't do another one, guys. This is bullshit. We're fracturing. We're pulling off. Like, I think there was the vibe of like, we're doing everything that Mike Hearn said we were going to do. And I don't know if you guys remember this blog post he wrote when he left. And it basically like his theory was that it would fracture.
Yes.
His theory was that at some point we're just going to fracture into 1,000 pieces of forks and bullshit. And it's just not going to make it as a result. And then I think when people started feeling like after BSV, or I guess for a lot of us, it was BTC to BCH. That was dramatic and traumatic. Then it was BCH to BSV, and then the BCH to eCash. It was just like, for a lot of folks, it was just like, man, I can't do more of this, and either it was like mentally, but also financially, it just always sucked. It's not like these forks were like moments of making money. Like it would be totally different if there was a way to remain ideological and make money, but people that were remaining ideological were losing money and like losing a lot. And it was like, it was like speed running, speed running getting fucked regularly, and it just didn't feel good. People were like, this sucks, I'm done, man. And I think that's largely when I saw more people starting to play with ETH, because right around that period, DeFi summer had just started lighting up, and it was like there was a vibe that I think for folks that were in the BTC OG days of like, Bitcoin's fun, Bitcoin has utility, Bitcoin's about onboarding people and changing the world. And then BCH kind of had that as well, but during this dramatic period, it was like, who knows what's happening? And then you kind of you just shift your lens to what's going on with Ethereum, and people were having fun. They were coming up with new economic use cases for crypto with smart contracts. And it was like all the things that Antonopoulos talked about of like, someday you're going to have like a remote controlled, car that's going to accept crypto payments, and the smart contract will settle as soon as the destination arrives by checking the Oracle data from the Google Maps. And you're just like, this is the coolest shit ever. But it wasn't happening on BCH. It was happening on ETH. And then people were getting drawn into that whole, it was like token mania. And I think for a lot of BCH folks, we already had SLP. Everyone was bought in on tokens, like colored coins and everything on BCH. People were all in on like, tokens are dope. We just got to find a way to make it work. And there was like, some, script use cases of tokens that were being played with. And then there was SLP, and then SLP was having some issues, but then ETH was just hitting its stride, man. And people were like, people making money over there too. Sure have lost a lot of that in these forks. Maybe I should play with some of these silly food monies. You had like sushi at the time, and Yam, and what other food? Pickle finance was a dope one. If you weren't making money on pickles, man, you weren't DeFi Summer OG. I made a bag off pickles. And so it's just like, being able to dabble and be like, man, I'm finally making money off this crypto thing, but it's off the dumbest shit. Nobody's proud of it. You're like, and it's just, it was one of those things where it's like, it's fun. People were having fun with money, fun with crypto again. But then fees started rising. And then especially for the BCH people who had already been like, I've been through this before with Bitcoin. It sucks. And then, it's a vibe. It was a vibe being like, wrapping your head around, all right, guys, I'm going to make $1,000 right now, but I'm going to spend $70 on fees to try to do it, And it's like, how confident am I that I'm going to make $1,000, off pickles or whatever it is?
Yeah. The risk is adding up.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, like, I think in hindsight, they're also like, nobody's proud of making money off pickles. And it's like, is this empowering the world? Is this the thing that's going to bring peer-to-peer cash? Is pickles the future? I don't think anyone thought it was, but it was a new economic use case of like creating yield farming opportunities to bootstrap liquidity on decentralized exchanges, allowing people to permissionlessly trade from one asset to another without an intermediary. It had everything written on it that was like, check, check, check. This is like OG level Bitcoin ideas. And granted, it was tied up in silly food tokens and some other Ponzi's and some like outright scams and rugs. There was like the underlining thread of like cool shit, the useful utility. It was there. And it was always the thing that like BCH people were trying to build. And there was like always like these demos and like little projects, but they just never hit that. They never hit that hype mania that DeFi Summer did, where we saw billions of dollars of like liquidity moving into these decentralized exchanges, and everyone was jumping in. Where like, you had guys like Chris Troutner in the trenches, building out some really cool BCH tech, but it just couldn't get adoption. And it's like, is it because the tech wasn't cool enough? I don't know. Is it because there wasn't a token or a VC tied to it? I don't know. Is it because the flip starter didn't do good enough? I don't know. But it was a weird vibe, and I think that kind of drained a little bit more of the BCH crew away and kind of splintered it out a little bit, because there was other exciting things happening that I think were just like, it was fun, And I think during COVID, not many people were doing peer-to-peer cash stuff. It's not like onboarding kind of took a bit of a hit because restaurants were all like shutting down, and it's like not like you could, So why not make money on pickles?
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. And that's a lot, to say a lot for ETH until, like you said, they've now sort of repeated the mistakes of the past in a different flavoring with the BTC community. Now things are turning into L2s, and they're also getting into a bit of a mess themselves, maybe without any community contention yet, but you have sort of the L2s that are eventually going to be like sucking away from the L1 and all that stuff. And BCH is maybe a little bit on the comeback. So what do you think, like what is different or what's changed? And or like how are you seeing things now, 2023, 2024, even with SmartBCH blowing up, suddenly, cash tokens came off okay, Bliss lined up. Is it different this time?
Well, maybe I can fill in a couple gaps too to get there, because I think for folks, SmartBCH came out and everyone was pretty hyped up for a little while there. And I think for a lot of the BCH people that kind of got drained away to play around in Ethereum and DeFi Summer and stuff like that, that was like, oh shit, we got an opportunity to like bring what we learned playing around with silly food tokens and bring it into BCH, where this can roll up back onto BCH layer 1, and this is a side chain, and it had all the ideas of being very cool and useful. Unfortunately had that centralized bridge and that point of failure, which didn't work, right? But man, like we were this close to like we were almost going to launch our Verse token on SmartBCH, because our vibe was like we would like to do a decentralized exchange because we believe in this. Like there was just so much drama happening with centralized exchanges at the time too, that everything was like, man, DEXs are the future. If like that is going to be the natural place for most crypto people to trade. Centralized exchanges are going to be this like single point of failure for governments and regulations to come in with a big old gun and just say, "Bow, Binance, you're gone." And we're seeing it, right? Nigeria, boom, Binance, you're gone. You know, Philippines, boom, Binance, we don't like you, get out of here. So I think like, I think like for us, it was like we were this close to doing on SmartBCH, and then we said, you know what? Let's maybe go where the liquidity is, and then we'll figure out a way to bridge over once those bridges are there. And that was always kind of the plan, is like, you know, let's create a bit of a community token for folks who use our wallet, for folks who want to participate in the Bitcoin.com ecosystem, but let's find a way to bring in communities, not exclude, you know? So it's going to start with ETH, and then we're going to start growing from there. And I think we were hoping that some of the bridging problems would have been solved by now, but they haven't really been. There's still some like trust minimized bridges, and, you know, depending on where you're at, like the hacks still happen on bridges. So like, I would love to see a point where we can just like zap it onto everything. And I think that would include more people, but I think it's like, gotta be careful, right? Like, we don't want another CoinFlex. We don't want another, you know, name any FTX. We don't want a Celsius. We don't want to, you know. So then I guess, you know, going filling in from there. Then yeah, I think cash tokens, dude. It like, I see why. Like after going through Cauldron and talking to Dagur and Holger and some of those guys, man, there's a bit of that spirit. I can feel that ember heat, that it reminds me a lot of DeFi summer, where people are having fun again, and they're doing it in a permissionless way. And it fulfills all those same things of like decentralized liquidity, bootstrapping liquidity with rewards, creating retarded shitcoins, doing some fun memes, you know, and bringing in like a vibe and a community around this idea. And I think if there is a way to do it with higher throughput, with guaranteed low fees, which cash tokens and BCH is proving with Cauldron, it does make me think there's a chance now where it can light up. And I think now like the market is starting to kind of price in that potential. But that's kind of my take, just based on like what I'm seeing on this. Like, I have no other explanation for why BCH is ripping so hard lately. It's got to be because there's a potential thread here where if this thing works, and if it gets critical mass and it gets adoption, and if enough other projects that already exist on other chains, whether that's like Tether or whether that's like Circle or whether that's Verse, if some of them start playing around on this thing, they'll start seeing that there's a cool thread here where utility, low fee, permissionless trading, you know, it could happen. Yeah, that's kind of my take.
Yeah, the window is open. So let's just talk quickly about the price there. Like you said, BCH on the comeback today, USD $606.72 to buy 100 BCH megasats. So we're way up there. One BTC sat buys only 115.8 BCH sats, so BTC holders collapsing value there denominated in BCH. One ETH buys only 586 megasats, so once again BCH just rising across the board. The halving is in 5 days ish on April the 4th, and Bliss is in 45 days. So for the price, I've got one other element we're going to mix in here, which we usually don't, which is BCHG. The Bitcoin Cash Grayscale Trust price has been rocketing upwards, potentially signaling huge sort of institutional demand for BCH and some whales coming in. One BCHG share today is $16.67, but each share represents only 0.00859068 BCH. So what that means is that at the current price of $16.67, according to BCHG, a Bitcoin Cash should be valued on spot at $1,940 US. So I agree with you. I think the market is starting to see the momentum, the vibe, the fun, the pushing through all the propaganda on BCH come back, the spirit network effect maybe rising as people come back in from BSV or from other coins, or slowly dribbling in from BTC2 as they unplug. And we also are seeing, maybe the whales get in here. So talk to me about the market. Do you put a lot of stock in this BCHG angle or what?
Man, it's funny because I work in crypto every day, but I'm not a price checker. I'm like, I think the more cycles you go through, at some point you just kind of like, I just buy Bitcoin or crypto or whatever. I just buy bags, I just I don't really know what the price is. Like, usually my wife is the one that tells me if stuff's ripping. She's like, "Whoa, did you see BCH today?" I'm like, "Oh, what's going on?" She's like, "You better check," or it'll be like a buddy that's like, "Dude, Bitcoin just broke 70." I'm like, "Oh, really? Well, that's weird. I saw it was at 60 last week. Interesting, cool." So like I hear about it, I watch, but I'm not a serial price checker. I just I'm like definitely one of those like DCA kind of guys where I buy a little bit every time I get paid. I get paid in crypto. I diversify, take a little bit of orange coin, a little bit of green coin, a little bit of purple coin, a little bit of stable coin in case a big old dump happens, and then I shoot it back in. And that's my strategy, and it's been my strategy since like 2017 when I was getting paid in this stuff. So like for me, I think when mania hits, for sure, I'm watching that price and I'm kind of trying to figure out what's going on. But man, I don't know. Trading is a weird. I think like the guys who look at charts, I don't think are happier individuals in crypto. In general, I think there's like. I think they live with a little bit more stress, and I'm kind of, man, I just want to work and wear Hawaiian shirts, that's my vibe.
Indeed. And do you see the narrative changing? Obviously, Roger's got his book coming out this week, Hijacking Bitcoin, and there's been a lot of associated sort of discussion about that. Once again, it's been big. He did this interview with Vlad Kostia on the Bitcoin Takeover podcast, and that got massively reshared and everything. Do you think there's a bit of
I love that. That was a great interview. Yeah. I mean, I think what Vlad said is totally right. Like Bitcoin, like in the same way that BCH community has had these different eras, BTC also has these eras of different communities. And there was for sure a really toxic era between the years of like 2015, 2016, it started to get bad, but through to 2020, it was like kind of that there was like an era of weird vibes. But I think where they are currently doing quite well is that they are bringing in some of these BSV ideas. And I think there's also just people that don't buy into the like, gold only narrative of like, don't use it, just hodl. And they're just like, hey, we see all this cool stuff happening on ETH or Polygon or, cash tokens or whatever. Maybe we can do something on BTC. So in that sense, I think it's interesting, right? It's interesting that we're in this weird, like, feels like there's kind of like a kumbaya moment happening in crypto. Right. And maybe I'm just like, I'm a bit of an optimist, man. I'm like a small town Canadian guy, so but I'm kind of like, man, there's like BSV people coming back. I've been chatting to some of them again lately. I've been chatting to BTC people again lately. I've been keeping an eye on BTC stuff and different BCH stuff and different. It's just like, I think in some ways, maybe the tribalism has just kind of played its course enough where people don't really care that much. Like, I mean, there's probably always going to be some folks in BCH saying orange coin bad, and then there's going to be some people in BTC saying green coin bad. But it's like, I think for the average person who's been around long enough, they're just like, I don't have time for that shit, man. Like, that's not my focus. I don't want to, like, I think for most people, they don't want to like live a life of just hating a thing. You know, you kind of just like, I just focus on the thing I do. Like, why do I need to hate a thing? I mean, I'm like, I don't know, maybe Christian background, a bit of a forgiveness guy, you know, like I think there is some power in forgiveness. You can kind of just, you can let it go, you know? And at some point, I think a lot of the people that are like letting individuals, letting communities kind of like control some of their emotions, you just got to let it go. Forgive them. They're just people, you know? I think there's something a little bit nice about just saying, I'm just going to do my thing, live my life the best way I can, whatever, you know? So, yeah.
When it comes to those toxic guys, though, they're still in there. And while it might have faded a little bit off the mainstream, not only do you still have the political control of Bitcoin Core, but you still have a lot of those people who, I struggle to follow all what they're up to because most of them have blocked me, right? Whereas the other side is a bit more sort of open-minded. But there's a bit brewing there, you know. Would you, like 2024, are you putting your money on a chain split happening in BTC? Is somebody going to fire off with an independent client, or are they just going to migrate to alternatives, or is it going to get more contentious, less contentious?
I mean, there's so kind of in the same thread of thinking of cash tokens has a thread right now. There's this vibe right now that I think Corbin and cash tokens has kind of like created of bringing DeFi to BCH L1. That's a thread, right? There's like a vibe in there, a little ember. And then I think in the BTC crew, there's an ember happening too with ordinals and runes, BRC20, BitVM, Babylon, interesting EVM roll up onto Bitcoin. Stacks. There's a few other like, you know, Bitcoin things, but there's people building again on Bitcoin, not just focusing on Lightning, which through 2015 to 2020, that was all they had going because it was the only thing you could do. You couldn't touch Bitcoin. It was just like, it was totally ossified. And now you can, people through their fuck up with Taproot, you can actually like start doing stuff again. And dude, it's so funny though, because it so much of it is eerily similar to SLP and stuff like that. Yes. Like you look at what they're doing with runes, man, runes is like the most interesting thing in my head happening on Bitcoin, but it's also like, this is SLP with like a few little recipes kind of tweaked, but it's cool, man. We've done that. We could help them, you know? And I kind of like, if someone wanted to take some of our SLP indexers, you're going to need indexers to run runes. Figure it out, guys. You know, yeah, all the merrier.
But that's the thing. I agree with you. There's a bit of a push there to bring more innovation into BTC. But unlike on BCH, you know, we've got cash we've got and everybody's loving it. Everybody's like, it's working. Let's do more of that. There's no contention around it. There's contention on the BTC side, and they didn't have those further splits. You know, they got rid of the evil big blockers, and then it was smooth sailing until now. So. I don't think they're going to risk a chain split, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone were to fork themselves off on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think the Bitcoin Core people are going to risk creating drama. Like for a little while I was paranoid thinking like, hey man, anyone building on Bitcoin, you're insane, because those core guys are just gonna, at some point they're gonna patch Taproot with a soft fork, and every little rinky dink NFT is dead. You know, any little project you built is dead. And for sure that's a possibility. But I think they also realize that if they were to do that, they would split their community maybe in more than half. Like I think in some ways, because they rested on their laurels of just number go up, pump, you know? But meanwhile, like this other crew, this other like era had kind of emerged of builders on Bitcoin that were just trying to have fun, you know, bringing out some of the things that we were seeing on ETH or on other, you know, EVM chains to bring some of that vibe into Bitcoin. And I think there's now like, I mean, anyone who's like onboarded after 2020, they don't know about
the Bitcoin Cash chain split. They don't know who Roger is. They don't know why Bitcoin Core says or behaved a certain way. All they know is, hey, this is like a really secure chain. It's the most popular chain. Maybe I could build something cool on it. And I think they go about it really naively, but I think there's so much naivety being built onto Bitcoin that they wouldn't risk losing that and losing some of that hype. That's my theory. But I would say there are like other, like there's many communities within Bitcoin, right? There's like the ordinal rune community. Then there's like the drive chain community or the side chain community. And then there's like the OG kind of like, don't touch it. It's gold. Don't risk anything. Don't do any upgrades. Don't break anything. Anytime we touch this thing, someone breaks it and starts spamming the blockchain. And we all hate spam, you know? So I think, I don't know, man. I think like probably if some of the soft forks don't get activated, then some of those communities are going to get, they're just going to leave, right? They're just going to probably do their own thing. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So my prediction is nobody will really, like the Wizards maybe or the CTV, they were saying, like Udi has promised a fork, a soft fork in 2024. We're now end of Q1. Haven't heard any more about that, although I haven't checked in on the latest. Like, I just feel like it's an uneasy balance. At some point, someone's got to make a move, and there's for sure going to be laser eyes pushback to that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can see it cooking, and Anyway, fascinating to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just kind of one of those. I'm a serial enjoyer, man. I just watch. I just watch, eat the popcorn. All right, man. You guys forking, cool. You know, like, man, I think. Yeah, for context, we've done the hard forks in Bitcoin.com. It's a regular event, when a hard fork occurs, and when a chain split happens, it's an event. But I think because we've all been through them enough, it's kind of like you just become jaded, and you're like, oh, we're doing this again, all right, But I think it's easy to get wrapped up in it, right? Like you can marry your bags. If you're holding a lot of BCH, it feels like the world is ending. And I've done that, man. I've been all in on BCH before, where I was like, I'm a green coin only dude. I was like, I went from being a Bitcoin guy to being like a BCH only guy. And when BCH starts having drama or doing things, it hurts. You're like, God damn it. This is my bag. And this is the thing I believe in the most. And, it's incredibly painful. And I think for guys in the Bitcoin space, that's why a lot of them maybe haven't quite gotten over the tension, right? Because there was just so much drama involved, and there's a little bit of like this lack of ability to move on from, many people. It's drama, man. People, and I think humans also, we just have a habit of like remembering the worst shit. And I think it's like that survivalism just baked right into our like lizard brain. You remember the bad stuff, and that kind of like makes you stronger in the future or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I've got to protect the downside. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin.com then. So you sort of gave us a little bit of the history then, but I genuinely don't know what Bitcoin.com is like today. So how many people actually work at Bitcoin.com? And I don't know if you can say also what's sort of like the revenue like. And I mean, I know you have the wallet, you have the news site, the information website. What else is kind of in there?
Yeah. So Bitcoin.com was founded in 2015 by Roger and a few other OGs. And basically they started off as a news website. And then during 2017, when this hard fork happened and Bitcoin Cash emerged, there was no wallets supporting it. And maybe like, I think there was like a original like Electrum fork or something like that. And that was about it. But there was no like mobile wallets jumping in right away. And Emil and Roger forked Copay or is BitPay at the time or Copay at the time? I think it was Copay at the time. And and then basically just started building out this self-custody wallet that was forked off of that. And then during 2018, we ended up bringing on a some additional people. We got some like really great wallet developers from the O3 team. And they came from like the Neo blockchain, which was like, you guys might, I don't know if you guys like 2017, you might remember Neo was like, I think it was Ant Shares before that, and it was like, it was like telling the world like we're like the Chinese Ethereum.
Yes,
and that was their selling point. It's like, man, I want some of that Chinese Ethereum. That's what I want. So, but yeah, we got some of their devs, and they were great and super smart dudes, and a lot of them are still with us today. And during that period, we rebuilt our wallet from the ground up. And yeah, during that period, I mean, there's just been, going back to this idea of eras, there's Bitcoin.com eras too, right? There's various, I've been through probably more than most at this point. But yeah, I guess summarize, we're like Bitcoin.com's bread and butter, primarily fiat to crypto on-ramps, swaps in the wallet app. We make money through media sales, like advertising, banner ads and stuff like that on the news website. We make money off of games. We have various different gaming websites, and those provide some additional revenue.
Really? Like what? I don't know those. What?
Yeah, you go to games.bitcoin.com or cashgames.bitcoin.com. Bunch of those. Yes. Yeah. So you can go, play your video pokey, play the one-armed bandit with your crypto, and fun. So yeah, I'd say like those are like the bread and butter of the business. We're about 90 people. That includes all our support staff. In terms of engineering, it's maybe around 50 people, 50 some odd people, a little bit more than 50. And, that's broken down from like various skills and teams from like, we got backend Android, iOS. Again, because we support native iOS and Android, we have dedicated, like we basically have to build two Bitcoin.com wallets, right? It's kind of a pain in the ass, but does give you some perks. And then we've got like the Verse team, we've got news team, we've got games team, we've got like web and marketing and DeFi, and it's cool. It's a cool vibe though. Yeah.
Now, obviously, I think Bitcoin.com's just in a bit of a strange position. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, because over the run of BCH, and like you said, going back to Roger and the chain split and everything like that, it's frequently received a lot of flack, I feel at times undeservingly, from the BCH community, because at least in the past, maybe a little less now, the BCH community has felt like that was such a good representation of the kind of company that we want, or the kind of vision that should be pushing BCH, and maybe even felt a little bit entitled. So if Bitcoin.com was like, we're doing, Verse, or we're launching on another chain, or we're adding other coins into the wallet, things that might have been the right decision for Bitcoin.com, but people would be uncharitable to it because they want to believe that it would do things in the sort of interests of BCH, even if that wasn't exactly the best move from the point of view of Bitcoin.com, right? So just wanted to get your thoughts on how it's been dealing with the BCH community, and to what extent you feel that those kind of criticisms, when they come up, are either justified or not in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, there was a period where Bitcoin.com was like the tip of the spear for Bitcoin Cash, right? We were Bitcoin Cash first, and then we had some other crypto like Bitcoin. And I think probably just during all of some of these eras, the natural proclivity of like disenfranchised developers who lost bags during different forks is like, why don't we just add Ethereum in the wallet? And it's like, we can technically do that. It's probably time. It's had a great run with DeFi summer. Yeah, let's see what happens. And I think too, at the time, there was also like SLP issues. SLP was basically just like falling apart at the seams, and we needed a way for users to swap into stablecoins. And we only had Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and SLP tokens. So it's like, we're making money off this. And if SLP goes away, the ability for people to swap into a stable coin goes away as well. And that's pretty stupid. So we better have Ethereum and some ERC20 tokens, so at least people can get, if the market starts ripping or the market starts dumping, there's an escape hatch, right? Which I think if you're, even the most hardcore crypto person, you got to have a plan, right? Either it's going to go up or it's going to go down, but you got to know where the exit is. You're on the friggin' airplane and it's like, where is it? Figure it out, man. You got to know, you got to have it ready ahead of time. Because if you wait until it's like mooning and you're the last person out, you're dead. You're getting wrecked, right? So yeah, I mean, like, I think that's kind of where I would say things started growing there. And then I think just, I'd say throughout these eras too, there's just been different priorities from different CEOs, right? Some of them were a little bit more focused on BD partnerships. Some of them were more focused on building. Some of them were more focused on revenue. And, I would say, I mean, it's probably no secret to you guys, but you broke ass green coiners don't make money. You guys it's hard to build a business on Bitcoin Cash only. So when people are saying like, why aren't you just doing BCH only anymore? It's like, have you looked around, guys? Like, how many other companies are there that are building BCH only? And especially at our size, it's untenable. So, you do need, in my head, like, it's probably no secret. I'm like very much a multi-chain maxi. I hold everything now. I used to be a Bitcoin guy, and then I used to be a BCH only guy. But I think just throughout the time, I got sliced and diced enough times where I was like, diversification sounds pretty cool, So now I just, I support everything pretty equally. But I think I would say rightfully, some of the criticism from the BCH community is that throughout these different like changes and change of guards and things like that, certain things get deprioritized. And unfortunately, I think, BCH did in many ways not have as much attention, and undeservedly so, in my opinion. I got into Bitcoin.com due to my love of big blocks and Roger, and I still plan on supporting BCH and doing everything we possibly can to make BCH great. But yeah, at the same time, I'm now this interim CEO, so I got to make sure that all the lights stay on too. So it's kind of just finding that balance, and I don't think we had hit that balance truthfully. And so in my head, that some of that criticism, well deserved, well received. I've been chatting to a bunch of different people from the BCH community, I'd say since taking on this interim role, and I'm, do my best to make sure you guys are feeling heard and feeling seen, and that we're doing some stuff. Like I was saying to you guys, like before the call, like there are some things we have in the pipeline to support the peer-to-peer side. It's not just ETH, it's not just EVM, it's not just Verse, it's finding utility for whoever is trying to have a job being done. So if your job to be done is, I want to spend some BCH, our wallet app has to function as great as possible for that use case. And if it's not, people are just going to go somewhere else. And, if your job to be done is, I want to swap crypto permissionlessly, that's a job to be done, and we got to do that incredibly well. And if your job to be done is, I want to find a restaurant nearby that accepts some crypto, that's a job to be done, and we better do that job extremely well. And if your job to be done is just, I want to stay informed on the news and on the latest drama and whatever's going on with hard forks and stuff like that, well, it's a job to be done. Get the news out, make sure people are getting notified. So I think finding ways to like just strike that balance based on people's like usage, that's kind of going to be the sweet spot for the future of Bitcoin.com. Is like, like self-custody first is still the core part of what we do. And I think that vision won't ever go away. So I think self-custody and DeFi in many ways are just like so tightly bonded now that you can't really break them apart. And once you build a business around those two, getting weird with custody, it feels dirty, So, I think like just finding interesting ways to just make people's use cases with our wallet. And if you see our wallet as a tool, the tool's got to complete the job. And if the tool is not fulfilling the job, people are just going to find a different tool. And, it's not our job to demand people have certain coins in their wallet, on the front screen. If they don't want to see Verse, they don't have to see Verse. If they don't want to see Bitcoin, they don't have to see Bitcoin. If they don't want Ethereum anywhere to be seen on their wallet, that's fine too. You don't need to see whatever we're pushing out there. So I think just letting people have that customization in the same way that they have their own personal habits, their own personal notification preferences, their own personal price alerts, their own personal coin holdings. It all ties to this idea of like, your wallet is yours. It's not ours. We just, build the software for it. So how you use it, it's got to be yours. It's got to be catered to you. So I think that's something I'm trying to breathe some life back into it,
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy again for Bitcoin.com to get a lot of flack, especially during that era where they were the ones who was doing most recognizably, BCH centric stuff. And I think hopefully that has been somewhat alleviated by, general protocols, by Paytaka, by the podcast, by now the Cauldron guys, as more BCH specific projects come up. I think that lightens the burden of the community, can see there's stuff going on and there's things to be interested in. And for people who are very ideological, there's projects for them to get excited about that doesn't all fall onto why isn't Bitcoin.com fixing, the long laundry list of problems that they want fixed. I always just think, working in software engineering and stuff, it's always just very easy from the outside to say like, why isn't X or Y getting done? And it's like, well, that's because you kind of have the things that you want to see fixed, and then there's a huge list of things you don't see that are getting fixed, right? And there's always a balancing act there.
Yeah, and then there's trying to complete the roadmap and trying to fulfill cleaning up just tech debt. It's just like totally.
Okay, so
like I said, I think. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I've got one.
I was just gonna say, I think we got a weird leg. Son of a bitch!
Finish
this damn commie internet.
Finish your point, and then I'll jump.
All right, I'm gonna finish my point. So I think my take is just that we Bitcoin.com is aware that there's parts of the community that feel like we should be doing more, and I think there are ways we can still do more for BCH. There's a lot of people in Bitcoin.com that truly do care about Bitcoin Cash, even if they've gone through drama, and even if they've gone through forks, and even if they've lost some money. There is still this kernel of the idea of peer-to-peer cash. It's unstoppable. This is this is something you can't put it back in the bag. I don't care how much pickles you can make money on. I don't care how much it's just the idea is there. But I think for us, it's just going to be about maintaining that what's going to attract users, what's going to keep people in the app, what's going to ensure that their job to be done is giving, they've got a good vibe around it. And if we can do that by making a few little enhancements here and there, and supporting some of the things that are happening in the community, I'll do everything I possibly can to find a way to make it happen. So yeah.
Okay, so to brass tacks specifics, people have asked when cash tokens and when BCH Bull or any hedge integration. I already had those questions, people had asked me, and I'm seeing them in the chat now. What about those?
Yeah, I think, so I think us actually, in some ways, Bitcoin.com kind of taking a step back on being BCH only was probably the best thing for the Bitcoin Cash community, because it did force so many people to just try a little harder. And I think, it was you can't just rely on one company. Nobody should. You got to have competition, right? And I'm a huge supporter of everything that the BCH guys are doing, from Paytaka to what you guys are doing with your wallet and everything else. It's getting people to do more with the resources they have. It's great, and some people are going to want to support the small guys, and they should. So I think finding that footing for the community was incredibly important, because I think that's what has allowed you guys to just build. And if you're not building, you're not sending those signals to the, let's say the potential buyers, right? If things aren't happening, you got to make them happen. And I think there for sure is some people in the BCH community who kind of sit on their hands being why doesn't the Bitcoin.com guys just do it? And it's why don't you guys do it first? Why do we have to do it? So I think, finding a way for the community to get things in motion is the fastest way for us to begin supporting things. So, we don't have to make major contributions or anything like that to like Ethereum's protocol or tech stack, or it's just like, hey, we just plug it in. It's one of many, right? Same with Bitcoin. We're not really doing, we're not really like saying, hey, we're gonna like enhance the Bitcoin protocol or support like a great new thing and like build some infra for it. It's just like, hey, we'll just plug it in, and I think for a while though, we were helping the BCH people with infra, but it came at like tremendous company cost, company resources, where we were like one of, we didn't support Ethereum until 2021, which, for a multi-chain wallet, that's pretty late. Ethereum's been around for a while. So, and again, just going back to like trying to make money, trying to turn this thing into a business that isn't just funded by like Roger or, for other projects that are just funded by Flipstarter community donations. If you want to make a business, you got to find a way to make money. And the way to make money, at least in crypto, as far as we've seen, is fiat to crypto on-ramps and getting people to swap from one asset to another. Now that maybe in some wallets, you can do that purely through like a BCH only thing, but I haven't seen any cash tokens that have tremendous economic utility. It's mostly shitcoins. Now, that's not to say that shitcoins are bad. I'm very pro shitcoin. Like I said, pickles, that was hype for a little while. So if there's pickles on cash tokens, man, I'm in. You get me in there, guys. Give me some of those gherkins. But I think I think just like we want to support the things, but we need to see that there's a path to revenue and a path to the community being there to support it. Like if we're the ones building the infrastructure and the like for let's say for cash tokens, that would be a bad thing for BCH. Like you guys don't want us, a corporation who's only focused on revenue, to be the sole contributor to a thing that keeps this idea alive. That's got to be funded through the community. And I think the Flipstarter model has worked for that, as long as it, you got to keep the grifters out. But, when you've got people that are builders that have been in the space for a long time, that are regular contributors, that are well-known in the space, safe bet that they're the ones that are going to be able to do it. And they're the ones that are going to be able to like scale it to a point where other wallets can support it. So, I'd been talking to Emergent and Mathieu going back before Christmas, kind of talking about like what it would take from the BCH community to get cash tokens into Bitcoin.com wallet. And I think it's a few things, right? It's like making sure that actually like it's quite cool to see, because like some of the things I'd mentioned, it's just like started naturally happening. And I don't think it was anything I said to anyone. It was just like, it was the clear path. So like we've been seeing Wallet Connect into these different dApps on BCH. Man, that's huge. Like not having that was the biggest pain in the ass for BCH community. Cause then it becomes this thing where it's like, hey, we want you guys to support our new XYZ dApp. Can you guys just like build, rewrite your transaction broadcast microservice to support this new funky thing we just invented that uses covenants or some other things? And it's like, do we want to risk that? Is that the thing that our users are asking for? It sounds cool, but like, do we want to? Like, is that the thing that's going to potentially break the wallet? Or like, how are we sure that this is not going to be like, is it going to be supported in a month? Or is it going to have a security flaw that we're now going to have to like jump on right away? So being able to kind of use this idea of Wallet Connect for dApps, which is like, it's like the no-brainer thing on EVM, but getting it on Bitcoin Cash was critical for us to be able to tie in additional projects, because it doesn't make sense for a wallet to just like go right, like raw dog into native integration of like some new thing. It's a high risk thing, especially for us. We've got like a shit ton of users. So everything we do, we're kind of like, there's always that paranoid, like, oh, has it been audited? Has it been tested? Do we know these people? Have they been audited? Have they been tested? If we build this, who's going to test it? Are we sure it's going to work? What happens in a month if it stops being supported? So like there's always this like baby step of, well, we can maybe put a link to it. And if that link supports Wallet Connect, that would be the ideal for us. So we've started to see some of that stuff happen. I think the fact that like the tokens are all validated on the mining side makes it a lot easier to support. So there's already some stuff that like ticks some boxes. But it is one of those things of like, you know, seeing potential economic value from this is kind of step one. And I think what Cauldron has done, they've laid out all the technical groundwork for us to start doing stuff on BCH, where it's like, we certainly could. Like, there's nothing stopping me from being like, put the gavel down and be like, all right, listen up, Bitcoin.com nerds. We're bridging over some verse. You know, we could do it. We could do it. We have the power. But it's also like, are we ready? Are we ready? You know, like, is just doing the token enough? Is that enough data for us to gather that there's trade volume happening there, that there's interest in this protocol, or is it like a loud 300 users on our BTC? Because there is always that of like, you know,
yes.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it's like, for sure, sometimes the problems that are seen by the community are like not seen by the users who don't follow the community. Like, so you've got hardcore believers in BCH that are like, cash tokens the future. And I think they're dope. Like the fact that low fee, high throughput DeFi, I'm hyped about it. I'm sold. But it is also like, how many of our users are asking for it? You know? And are the users of cash tokens in the current form more likely to be the type of people using Electron Cash, Selenium, or any of these other Paytaka or Zapit, or did I miss any other ones that are kind of like building some of those things? But like,
yeah.
Cash and I, there we go. Sorry. So a few other, like just finding ways to like make sure that, like, I think if they're the ones laying the groundwork and we can start seeing that there's hype, we can start seeing that there's on-chain data showing economic value transfers happening. Truthfully, I think that really starts happening when there's a stable coin on cash tokens. So I'm really bullish on this idea of like Cauldron and those guys figuring out a way to do like a over collateralized BCH stablecoin or something like that. That would be hype. And I think I said this on or maybe Reddit or Telegram somewhere, but like, I think for cash tokens to really prove itself, it kind of needs to get that V1 stablecoin. And once there's sufficient volume happening using stupid shit coins or just BCH to that stablecoin, then there's like enough reason for businesses to start looking at it to say, should we bridge over? Should we mint a token there? Should we do something there? And I think, like, speaking to SLP, like, I don't want to take full credit for it, but like I was a big part of the conversations related to getting Tether on SLP. There was a few other key people, including Chris and JT and Roger, of course, but like helping their team get caught up to speed on the SLP side of stuff. It took a long fucking time. And, it took a lot of dev time. It took a lot of support. It took a lot of hand holding. And the only reason I think they did it, though, and is because there was already existing stable coins there. And they saw that as like, we could just gobble that up, So if there's sufficient incentive where a business is looking at volume and being like, yeah, we could gobble some of that up, then I think that's kind of like becomes kind of a easier path for us to start saying, all right, it's time to invest and build this thing out. So a few kind of, I would say, things related to that would probably go a long ways to us being like, it's time, it's go time. But there is also that, we're just balancing everything. We got, like, going to what you said, there's tech debt, there's other things we've got to build, there's other, bugs we've got to fix, where adding a whole new feature and building that out, it's going to take a little while, especially on our end. Like, yeah, everything we build has to be kind of built for enterprise. We're not building for like, a couple thousand users. It's millions of users. And if the protocol has issues, if the dApps have issues, if there's some weird issue and we're throwing this and promoting it to our user base, then we just don't want egg on our face. SLP, we had egg on our face. It didn't work out. And, we had to unwind, and a lot of people, our support team, man, like they work their asses off, but they get chewed out when these types of issues where blockchain developers just say, we don't know how to fix it. So we'll just shut it down. And it's like, wait, there's like, people value the things that are on there. You're just going to shut it down. It's like over. Nobody's going to support it. Nobody's going to step in and do anything. And it's like, yeah, we just couldn't figure it out. So like, we're out. You guys can figure it out though. Like, good luck. And we're just like, not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly pretty much the answer I was expecting, and the answer that I think is spot on, right? I was expecting it for a reason, which is that Cash Tokens has got your interest, because I've seen you become a bit more open to it. Like 1 year ago, even when people were hype, I was like, "This is getting launched." Etc.
I wasn't sold on it, man. I was so bearish on bearish on more tokens on Bitcoin Cash. After I was like, wait. So we had Wormhole,
yes,
big old fart noise, SLP, wah, wah. And then we had what else was there? Oh, I guess even before those was like talk of Grouper. The SmartBCH, and then now we got this Cash token. I was like, oh, man, do we need another token thing? But yes. I'm happy it came out. I'm happy that people are building on it. I think I was wrong. I was wrong to be like another one. It's cool.
I don't think you were wrong. I think you were wrong in the sense that you didn't pick it right, but I think I understand why, given the history and so forth. It was very justified to be skeptical, and it sounds like things have now got to the point of being like, okay, the seeds are there. We're starting to see some green shoots, but the numbers aren't quite there, and that makes sense to me. That it's going to need maybe another year or whatever for things to start to get snowballing in terms of TVL and more hype and just general interest and customers and DeFi activity, all that.
And it was the same thing for SLP too. Like right. we weren't the first to support SLP. A lot of other wallets were letting it cook and getting it going, and I think we were a little later, right? And then we eventually got it. When we got it, it was pretty good, until the SLP infrastructure started struggling. But man, it was cool. I think once we get it, it's going to be bubble wrap. It's going to be fun, So I think, I'm optimistic it'll happen. I can't give any dates, but I'm, like I said, man, if it's utility, if it supports this thread of peer-to-peer, if it gets me gherkins on BCH, man, someone's got to mint it.
Yes, it might have to be you. Like, that's the thing with I think the BCH community is in the stage where it has to justify it a little bit. So then what about, and it's kind of same but different, what about the AnyHedge and BCH Bull stuff? Because that has the upside that the numbers kind of are there. Merchant's saying in the chat $200 million AnyHedge volume in the first year. So they're serious on the numbers, but also at the same time, like, they are the ones mostly doing that. So there's a bit less tooling. It would be a bit of a bigger jump to get it going. And it is a very BCH specific thing. There's the oracles, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, dude, the stuff that they built, I've used AnyHedge. It's cool. I made money on it. It's cool. I lost money on it. It's still cool. Yes. So, I mean, like, I think I'm not sure. I haven't used it in a while. Like, if they're at Wallet Connect level, and that might be a path for us. But I think that was kind of the issue, right? Like, because I think the last time I spoke to them was like, how would we bake that into our wallet, and having to like build out some like unique transactions and changing our whole back end. And it's just like, it seemed like a thing that would be better off as like a Wallet Connect thing, but I don't know if it technically can be as that, since it's so baked into script, is my understanding. So I mean, I can't say never. Always happy to chat to them again. So yeah. Give me a ring, man.
Needs further development on that front.
Yeah, I need more nerds. I mean, truthfully, man, I'm not that good of a dev. So I gotta find like real devs on my team to be like, hey, you sit down with your nerds and our nerds and maybe we'll figure it out. But yeah. You got a guy in a Hawaiian shirt, you know? What the hell do I know?
Emergent says, vision question. In what areas does Bitcoin.com want to be a leader, and what areas is it happy to be conservative in the whole crypto scene, I guess, is the vibe. Where like you said before, different CEOs, different eras of Bitcoin.com. Now you're in charge. What's the Corbin mandate? Where's the attack?
Risk on. Risk on. Yeah, that's unironically been my go-to lately. Is risk on. You know, it's I think for me, like crypto's got to have utility for it to be useful, and I think digital gold. It's one of those things that like probably 3 years ago I'd be like, Corbin, you're an idiot. You know, like I would like 3 years ago I'd be calling this version of Corbin an idiot. But I think this version of Corbin would be calling the Corbin of 3 years ago a bit of an idiot too. There is something to be said about stupid digital gold narrative. It is really stupid, but it for some reason tickles enough of like mainstream normies that they're like, hey, I'm interested. So Bitcoin.com will support Bitcoin. Shocking, right? Bitcoin.com will support other coins though. So that means we're going to support a lot of other blue chips, from Bitcoin Cash to Ethereum to other chains. You know, we're going to find ways to just make the wallet useful to as many people, to help onboard more people into crypto. You know, I think there's always been this like underlying tone of economic freedom to Bitcoin.com, but you know, we're also still a business. And I think for me, I just want to 10x everything. I want to 10x the users. I want to 10x the utility. I want to 10x the number of coins supported. I want to 10x the value that we're bringing to our team and to our community and to Roger. And for me, it's like, I don't care how I got to get there, man. If it's cash tokens, you know, I'll gobble that up, man. If it's adding runes to Bitcoin, I'll figure it out. If it's making pay links work for every chain, why not? If it's you know, building out more utility through stuff that isn't yet in the app, whether that's going a little bit more hardcore and adding the you know, stuff like AnyHedge or other more native protocols, great. I think DeFi is not going away. We're always going to have that as part of our app. So I think like the Web3 integrations will grow, which I think is actually great for everything. I mean, like, because every chain is heading down that path. Cash tokens is Web3, as much as you guys might not like call it that. You know, that's what everyone's building on Bitcoin Cash right now. It's, you know, it's a LARPy kind of marketing VC term for just cool shit. So yeah, I think like us being able to support more of Web3, whether that's EVM Web3, UTXO Web3, that's going to be key for us to being able to just be nimble. And I think like I'm one of those people now. I think I'm a multi-chain maxi. I don't have a dog in any fight. I mean, I hold bags across the board. Some go up, some go down, is what it is. But, you know, like I'm not someone who's so married to the idea of peer-to-peer cash needing to be one coin or another, or one protocol or another. So being able to keep the company and our wallet app in a place where we can, you know, navigate whatever changes happen. The thing that might become peer-to-peer cash could be Bitcoin Cash. That would be cool. You know, it's got a green coin. It's got some fun history all the way back to Bitcoin. It's great. But it could also be some new thing that doesn't even exist yet. And we're all just kind of paving the way for that next thing. So like, I think you got to kind of think like Mao, you know, you got to build these like generational projects. And it could be that Bitcoin is part of that generational project And Bitcoin Cash is part of that generational project, and Ethereum is part of that generational project. And I think we all thought it was going to be a shorter time period. It was like, yeah, we'll definitely have Bitcoin will be widely adopted by 2020. You know, it's got a good ring to it. And now we're 2024, like nobody fucking uses it. Nobody, I mean, like even Bitcoin Cash, man, there's a few hotspots compared to like total number of people that have a phone. It's a drop in the bucket, man. So like, got a long ways to go, but it's incredibly important that the community continues building and that we continue supporting all the cool things that are happening so that if and when one of those things hit, we're there to support it, right? So.
All right, so we've got BCH Bliss coming up now in 45 days, the epicenter of the BCH development and push forward, like you said, the new era. Maybe we ran a video promo competition and the winner was Freedom Boy with a Bitcoin Cash song that we're going to play at the end of the episode, at least on the recorded version. So congratulations to them on winning a Jessica NFT and also some spending money. I believe you're going to be presenting at Bliss. Is that part of the game plan? And
that's the plan, yeah.
Let us know, like, what's
I got to figure out all my I got to figure out my game plan there. I haven't booked anything. I'm kind of one of those last minute bookers, but I think during that month there's a ton of other conferences. But yeah, no, I'm hyped up to see that Bitcoin Cash is doing a dedicated conference. I've been to a couple of those before in the past, and they're extremely fun. It's a good way to learn, you know, about the people behind the screen name and stuff like that. So that's cool. I guess, man, I'm gonna give some constructive feedback to you damn green coin commies. You guys got to get to some normal conferences too. You know, like I think it would like having a dedicated one to be like all in on the building and stuff. That's great, but you know, there's other like every other crypto conference is happening, and they're all kind of just like. They're just multi-chainers, you know, it's like there's a Bitcoin area, there's like Ethereum, there's Polygon, they'll have their own like little sections, they'll have their own like after parties, but they're all kind of like, it's an opportunity to like attract projects and people from other communities in. And if you guys, and I'm saying you guys, since we're not currently on cash tokens or anything like that yet. But I would say, if you guys are trying to attract more developers and more utility and more economic use cases, you got to have that top of funnel. And you don't find a top of funnel by selling Bitcoin Cash to people who are going to pay for a ticket to a Bitcoin Cash conference. Yes. You got to go fishing. You know, you guys are just preaching to the choir, which is cool for the choir. But nobody, I don't know how many new devs you're going to onboard as a result of this thing. Whereas if you were at something like a Token 2049 or one of these other, you know, larger kind of more nondescript project type conferences, and there was like a green area, that would be dope. That's I think that would be a strategically smarter thing to do in the future. Also, just giving you guys shit. Well, I'm waving my finger like a boomer here. Man, you guys really did me in. I was trying to help you guys out and get the Bliss, get Bliss promoted to our users, and they're like, "Yeah, just the tickets or NFTs on cash tokens." I'm like, "Oh, I see how it is. We don't support those yet." So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to like just tell all the BCH people to like go download someone else's wallet? Okay, I see how it is, guys. Interesting.
We are working on that. We're seeing what we can do about that. But of course, you're right. It is very, you know, trying to eat our own, trying to dog food our own stuff, you know. So
I know you got to dog food it, man. It's dope. I get it, man.
But hopefully by this time next year, you know, there'll be far better rollout of the cash tokens infrastructure, both in the Bitcoin.com wallet and elsewhere, and also slicker ways of helping people more on board into those. I think you're definitely right. The BCH community can do a lot better about representing in the broader crypto ecosystem. Of course, the main reason it hasn't is just lack of resources. And also, it's hard enough fighting the battle online, let alone in person. Yeah. So that'll come,
totally.
I think.
Dude, it's fun. It's fun doing it in person, though. Like when you meet someone who's like, "Oh, BCH, aren't you like?" Because man, Bitcoin.com, we got a rap, right? You go to a conference and they're like, "Aren't you guys the Bitcoin Cash guys?" And we're like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, we are. We used to be. We still kind of are." Like, "Do you want some BCH? Let me show you it." And it still melts their brain. They're like, I don't know. How many confirmations do I need to wait for? It's fun.
Yes, I have seen that.
But yeah, no, like you got to mingle, man. Everyone's got to mingle. Like you can't create these little tribes where people are just kind of insular. It creates bubbles. It creates incestuous drama. Like you get these RBTC, like I don't know, George should be back allowed in. Like. Man, who cares?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've got to disagree on that one. I think if you let too much disruption start happening, it does fuck up everything. It does have a big impact. But I think you're right.
Yeah.
We need to do the best we can to spread onto other sort of communities and also be more visibly represented. Hopefully that's something I can, especially now with some price pumps, maybe we can rock up the podcast.
People are hyped up, man. I've had people who haven't talked about BCH in a long time come up to me and just they're asking about what's going on. Price has been ripping. What's the latest? And they want to get caught up on what's happening in the space. And it's classic bull market, right? Nobody's interested until all of a sudden, like, the chart turns green.
Yes.
But it is funny to just observe. And I would say that make friends with other people in other groups and, build out, like, man, if Cash Tokens had a mechanism to bridge tokens from Ethereum or Polygon or Avalanche into a Cash token and back, that would be a very useful economic tool to support more projects.
Yeah, like there's the one-way bridge. Matthews and those guys have launched.
Wow, that's cool.
You can't get out. You can get in. We've got the door open, but the exit's locked.
Hotel California.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Someone might have to be responsible for
the Cash Tokens rug. You can't ever go back.
I will see if somebody gets around to making the exit half. We might wait and see.
But yeah, I'm supposed to be presenting at this thing. I think I hacked together some ChatGPT thing that I'm supposed to say about stuff. But I've got a couple ideas on some things I'm going to talk about. Probably focusing a little bit more on I think explaining specifically to the BCH people how much Bitcoin.com has done in terms of supporting the Bitcoin Cash community. So even if there are some salty, green coiners that are like, in my days, Bitcoin.com only did BCH. We still do a lot for BCH. It's a ton of stuff that we do to support it. We've probably onboarded more people to Bitcoin Cash than any other wallet in the world. We've probably given away more Bitcoin Cash through our faucet and through Paylinks and through just Roger being a total degenerate sharing Paylinks with everyone. We built out tools that are useful to onboard more people. And we haven't been perfect along the way, but I think being able to kind of explain where we're at, where we're going, how we're seeing things with Cash tokens and DeFi, and what maybe some opportunities are for Bitcoin.com to get our greasy little fingers in on this pie. So I'm hoping to share some cool stuff. Maybe I'll tease out an announcement. We'll see.
Okay, all right. Looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing you there, and it's great to have that momentum rising. So for anybody that wants to come along and meet Corbin, meet Jet, www.bliss.cash, get yourself a Jessica NFT and book some flights to Slovenia, because the European summer, there's not much better in the world than that. As a European summer enjoyer, I'll say that for sure. Right, we've got community comment of the week. Like you said, Matthew Jerkins has been crushing it in the community, and I thought it was worth giving an example of just pitch perfect sort of community narrative and marketing. He put up a post with BCH pumping up the ranks saying, next stops are Chainlink and then Polkadot. This is the Bitcoin Cash comeback to the top 10. Expect us. And at eCashTab was a bit salty and replied and said, BCH will never be able to, and I must assume, compete with AVAX. That will be its eternal stumbling block. And Matthew said, time will tell, but I'm working full time to prove you wrong, with the muscle emoji. And I just saw that. I was like, that's a winning attitude right there. That looks so strong from the outside, is to just say, look, maybe you're right. Maybe your project is better. Maybe your preconceptions or whatever. Who knows? But I'm going as hard as I possibly can to change that. And that is the exact attitude I think the entire BCH community should see and learn from and adopt. I try and do that wherever possible. So big shout out to Matthew for that one. What do you think, Corbin? Is that the way to win?
Yeah, dude, Mathieu, he's dope. Actually, I should give him a big old shout out too. Him and I worked on this Puffers bridge. So I don't know if you guys, I go back with the old BCH days, and so on SmartBCH when it just came out during COVID and things like that, I launched this silly NFT of some puffer fish over at puffers.cash. And it was I think it was like the first or maybe the second, I don't know, one of the first NFTs on SmartBCH. And it was mostly just me just trying to figure out, like, because I was wrong about NFTs too. I mean, maybe I was right at this point, but at the time I was like, man, NFTs are stupid. I'm gonna create one just because they're so stupid. And then it sold out, and I was like, dude, NFTs are pretty cool. So my NFT was just raising 100% of the funds to this orphanage in Vietnam to help some of these little orphans in Vietnam. And but then SmartBCH is kind of like, I don't know, is it around still? It's kind of around still. It's available, but it's like waning compared to cash tokens in terms of community support. So Mathieu, he built this one-way bridge to allow us to bridge puffer NFTs over to cash tokens. And then there's a small bridge fee, which also gets donated to the orphanage. So if anyone wants to go rescue some puffers that still exist on SmartBCH, I think there was only 2,100 minted. And I think only to date, maybe 40 have bridged over. So if you can find any in your old wallet, or if you've got any in your MetaMask, or if you see any floating around on Oasis, on SmartBCH, or any of these other like NFT trading platforms on SmartBCH, you can actually rescue them. You pay a small fee to move them over to cash tokens. And then that fee actually goes to support some orphans in Vietnam. So, prove it to me, green coiners, that we still got it.
Yes, exactly. Proof of work speaks louder than anything, and that starts with a good attitude. All right, we got our final segment.
Wait. One thing about the cash tokens, or about the puffers specifically, I tried using the bridge on 2 or 3 separate occasions, and I did complain about this, but it has never been fixed. I have like 32 or 35 puffers to bridge over. I can't move them.
Oh God, Mathieu!
No,
we got to figure this out.
So he's ended up refunding all of what I've sent for the transactions, and I think we've determined that the bug is in the prompt.cash side of things. But just a disclaimer: if you've got a lot of puffers, don't bridge them all at once.
One by one.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, probably safe to just kind of do it in smaller bridgey fees. I think there's got to be some weird issue if you're a puffer whale. Yeah. What a ridiculous, such a stupid project. But it's cool that it went to like orphans and stuff. NFTs, I'm still kind of giggling at, like, that they're a thing. But hey.
It's the mainstream.
So who's stealing your car? One of you guys is getting your car stolen.
My Lambo's parked out the front, so we're gonna need to check up on that in a minute. Bright green. It's green, right? The bull market's on. They know who to target. All right, so we got our message to the community, last segment of the show that we always do. You can just say whatever you think. And I know you've already given the BCH community some advice, so you can either elaborate on that or give something completely different. What is it that the Bitcoin Cash community needs to hear from your perspective?
What do you guys need to hear? I still love you. I still love you.
That's it? Just that? No elaboration?
It's like just that. No. Okay, I'll go into some meat. I was watching some of this drama unfold with RBTC moderating and the censorship, and our Bitcoin Cash is now kind of like, those two there was always those two, right? But I'm also kind of one of those like free market people where like, I think it's fine to censor the shit out of someone as long as it's like, this is like a known censoring, group. But you got to like, I think the free market of like having one where it's totally open is cool. You kind of need like, you kind of want to be able to go down the alley and hear the crazy people speak, even if they're crazy, it's kind of fun. You walk around Vancouver, Canada, and you're just like, walking down like around Gastown, you're like stepping over homeless dudes. It's like total chaos in the street. And you're like, man, it's fun to be alive. It's fun to be just like observing, PCP trips, like they're talking to aliens and you're like, cool, man, cool. So letting people do that on Reddit is cool in my head. But I would, in your defense, taking a little bit aside on your position, okay, I went to college in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and there was this cool park, and it's unironically called the Commons, and it's kind of it's a beautiful park in the day, but at night during when I was there, I'm sure it's probably worse now because Canada's just a total shithole, but. At the time, you would walk through the Commons. If during the day, it's beautiful. Dogs walking and frisbees and like hippies playing hacky sack. It's cool. But you go at night, you get fucking mugged. Like you get stomped. And it was like, like you don't want people wrecking a good thing. And if it's a bit of the, if people are. There's, if there's gardeners putting flowers in the Commons, they're making the garden beds look beautiful, cleaning the benches, and you got some assholes fucking leaving old stinky dumps on the bench and, smearing poop everywhere and, digging holes because they're like on PCP and mugging kids. At some point, you're kind of like, I got to get rid of some of these people because this used to be a nice place. So how that's approached is always kind of delicate because I think on the government end, it's like, hey, maybe you can lock up the people doing the muggings and, maybe the dude smearing his poop on the bench is probably having like a mental issue thing. You probably got to like put him in a mental thing. And, there's that approach, right, where you got the law. And then there's this like Reddit moderator approach where it's kind of like it's a hard thread. Hard thread to needle.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a tough one, man. Cause on the one hand, like, moderators are doing free work. They're the gardeners in the Commons. And if everything that they do is just getting stomped on and people are, shitting on their flowers, at some point they're just like, man, I'm going to stop planting flowers. This isn't worth my time anymore. And then I think at that point, you start getting shittier gardeners, and then the gardeners that are okay with people stomping on their flowers and, leaving a mess. And then it's just like, it's the natural decay of the Commons where you're like, I just don't go to that park anymore because I'm probably going to get knifed, So, but you still kind of need that. You just got to know what you're getting into. You like, I don't know. It's a tough one, man. I don't have all the answers to it. I would say that, like, just going back to what I said earlier, I think forgiveness is a big one. If people are trying to be better and they've gotten some help and they're making a good, honest effort, I think it's okay to kind of give people second and even third chances. But I would say that if there's like, if they start putting poop on the bench again, they start stomping on the flowers, it's okay. It's okay. I think it's just, BCH is really tough, right? Because it's like, they've got such a strong history going back into Bitcoin for like anti-censorship, which is rightfully so. Like the censorship that was occurring on our Bitcoin probably led to small blocks winning, big blocks losing. But from the small blockers' point of view, they succeeded. Moderation helped, So it just depends on like what side of history you're on. Yeah, so it's tough, man. I think it's a tough one to thread. But I would say having a place where it's free and open, good. Having a place that's moderated, also good. Kind of maybe that's just me being a serial enjoyer, where I'm just like, drama. Drama's fun. it's something to talk about. At least it's something different than prices and stuff like that, which is pretty boring.
Yeah, okay. I didn't really plan for us to get, into some of that drama, but just while we're on the topic, I will say both Bitcoin is T Future and Renegade both afterwards have said, either publicly or privately, that they sort of think maybe they were on the wrong side of that issue, or their opinion has changed, and that probably the way things ended up was for the better, even if in the recent past, they weren't so aligned with it. So I sort of felt like it was a good vindication that the community was able to have a debate on a topic and come to some kind of a fairly universally agreed resolution. I think that's a very healthy thing. You need to be able to disagree, and you also need to be able to come to a decision, right? Mm-hmm. So I was very, very glad to see that. Okay, we've got our final shout outs and stuff for the show. Supporter appreciation. Thank you very much to our donators. Thank you to our patrons, Ricky and HP. Thank you to our sponsors, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com. And thank you to the Flipstarter contributors, Majamalo Marcelo, Shadow of Harbinger, Molecular, BTC Fork, Adam Back, Big V, Cheap Lighting, Emergent Reasons, Imaginary Username, Yeah Beer, and Brian Kanachi, whose name I fixed even though I had accidentally spelt it wrong on the previous slide. The start guide, FAQs, links, and all of that is at bitcoincashpodcast.com. If you're new to the show, listen to episode 85 and you'll be able to get a lot of the history and the background to what is all going on here, which would be especially interesting in light of just hearing all the history from Corbin's perspective there. You can check out Celine at celine.cash. And final shout outs, Corbin, where can people find more of you and anything else you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter or X or whatever, Maple Syrup Sucker without a ER, just an R, I guess. Man, I'm on the Bitcoin.com YouTube thing. I started that back up again. Got that ripping, that's been fun. So you can follow me on the Bitcoin.com YouTube or the BTCTN Twitter or a few other places around there. It's, it's cool. Go check out Verse. Go to verse.bitcoin.com. I know we didn't really get to talk too much about that, but we've got a community channel. So if you guys want to come hang with some of the bitcoin.com people, got to hold a small bag of Verse, and then you get to hang with us and you can chat to our team. You can get in there. I'd love to see more Bitcoin Cash people in there, as it would probably give us more conversation related to potential support and expansion. So if you're interested, come hang. You don't have to use high fee Ethereum. You can try out Polygon. It's a low fee chain. You can scoop up I think you need about 1 million Verse, which is like a couple $100, $300 maybe max. Gets you into our private Telegram and gives you some access to some cool new stuff and potentially some other new features coming out soon. So leave it at that. Yeah.
Good little teaser there. Jet, do you have any shout outs for the show this week?
Not so much a shout out. I think this is kind of like a message to the community. I guess a little shout out to the community too. So we see kind of the same criticisms towards the community here, I think, that we did when we had Paul on. Like, and there's a couple things that I disagree with you on, Corbin, but I think the sentiment is there. And I think the community has kind of responded appropriately organically. So over the past year, we have this someone meme where people are like, oh, we should do this. There's now like a Telegram command in most channels where it's like, you should be the someone to do that. That's not this we thing anymore. Get to work. And put the effort in to be the cool community. Have a cool party. But also, I think that gardening analogy was really good. Be a good gardener. Start planting some flowers. And don't let people shit on them.
Absolutely. That's
exactly.
It's a community project, the Commons. That's exactly what it is. An aptly named garden, it sounds like. My shout out goes to Freedom Boy for submitting the winning Bliss song, which we're going to use as the outro music, except I believe on the live stream right now. I forgot to tell Jet beforehand, but if you're listening to the recorded version or on future episodes until Bliss comes about of its own accord, then you can take a listen to these amazing vibes. It was clearly a passion-filled submission, and I think a very deserving winner. So enjoy that. Thank you all for listening. Till next time.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can...
Technical knowledge. I didn't know that you'd been running a web dev thing before. I thought you were a bit more on the product side, and it seems like, I think you're in a really good spot as the Bitcoin.com, CEO. I think you gave some really good answers too.
Okay, just real quick. We are live again, so... or live again. We're okay.
Hello, stream.
Yes, hello, stream. We're gonna debug some audio stuff. So I think the issue here is actually that. So I have to import both the host and guest from the video website into the slides and the main scene on OBS. But I also import the entire slide scene to the main scene so that I don't have two different slide things that I have to take control of. And I think what might be happening is that the audio in the main scene is doubling up, or there's also a potential that it's making a new audio channel and splitting the volume between them. But what I'm going to try to do is import, essentially in video, have each person have their own scene, create unique scenes in OBS, and then import those scenes specifically to each portion. And I'm hoping that this will fix it. And for anyone...
Dude, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what you guys are doing. So I've been dabbling with the OBS stuff. Just I haven't done this new stuff. But seeing your guys' setup, it's quite more different and seems like more advanced than my ghetto ass shit.
It's taken a long time. It's just like responding to bugs. Like we'll go 2-3 weeks where things will be perfect, and then some NVIDIA's graphic drivers will update, and I'll spend a week trying to figure out how to solve that.
No, but it's been fun hanging, guys. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person, and if you guys ever want to hop on, maybe there's also an opportunity for us to do something on the Bitcoin.com YouTube as well. Maybe bring you guys on, talk about Celine and Bitcoin Cash podcast, stuff like that. Could be a fun episode if we can find some time. I was hoping to do them every couple weeks, but I've just turns out taking this role on kind of busy. Yeah. So so I'm hoping I can get back in the swing on that.
That would be a lot, I'm impressed when you said, I'm starting up the YouTube channel again and all that. I was thinking, wow, as if you probably don't have enough on your plate. You're like, let's be pumping out, content and yada 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 as well too.
Well, it's tough, man, because like it's tough because you gotta like you know, we've got a pretty small marketing team, and it's like not like anyone is trained or comfortable to be like the face, you know, or like, yeah, nobody really wants to be the face, right? It's because it's an uncomfortable thing to be like, hey, I'm gonna go hop in front of a camera and pretend I know what the hell I'm talking about, you know, and yeah, and then sometimes it's like weird, and then, you know, like some people are like, it's cringe watching yourself. I still can't, like, if I watch a video, I'm like, what am I doing, man? Look at my stupid face. God, I hate it. Yeah. So, man, I think, yeah, I just kind of like one of those, you know, can't ask anyone else to do it, so I'll do it. It's cool, you know, and I got a good team that are helping me out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea how many people were working at Bitcoin.com. When you said 90, that sounds about right. I guess I would have probably undershot that. I would have guessed like 60 or something, but it's you know, it's a lot. That's a pretty good
like
size
probably
of
20
people.
of the truth. Yeah, probably like 20. I think like maybe I gotta double check. It's probably at least 15 people in support. So that, you know, it's just customer support people.
Yes.
Which do a ton of stuff with our users and stuff like that. But it's just like, yeah. So I guess if you remove that, then it starts looking like who's building the products. Yeah, it's like you're probably close. It's like in that 60 to 70 to 75, like, man, maybe 60 to 75 are kind of like the main people, and then there's like, yeah, the supporting actors, you know.
Yeah. I mean, every company is different. Like, you know, where I'm working at the moment, we've been through a few different iterations, but the tech team that I'm on is like you said, maybe 14 people, like 12, you know, a few engineers, a couple of QAs, designer, a couple of product guys.
Yeah.
And then you have like 3 of the support staff. So you've got that, but then we're within a bigger company, which has a whole separate thing going on. So yeah, it's like, it's really interesting how few people it can take to deliver something to like huge piles of people in the modern day, really.
Yeah, man.
So
I think you guys are kind of proof of that too, right? With some of the, like, I mean, seeing the community wallets kind of gear up in the last couple of years, man, they've gotten good, like really good. So it's impressive to watch.
Yeah, and I think a few price pumps will certainly help out. A bit of an airdrop to everyone, you know.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, it kind of helps pay the bills for sure, man.
Okay, Jeremy. So I'm gonna have to do some reading about Video Ninja because while I've added scenes now, I don't know how to select them. So we'll have to. Yeah, I'll take some of this weekend and figure out how all this scene stuff works, because I've only ever used the solo view links, and then there's the group scene for everyone. But yeah, I have options for I think 8 different scenes here, and then however many scenes in OBS. So I'm gonna have to.
How are you guys liking the Video Ninja thing? Because I tried it once and I couldn't get it to work, and then I ended up falling back on Riverside, but it's like a paid thing. You know, you gotta like pay a monthly fee or something on that.
So one of the issues, video solves a big problem that we have with Zoom. Where, and I think this is like very specific to my setup. I have hybrid graphics on my laptop, and I run Arch Linux and have Wayland and NVIDIA, and none of those things play together well.
The curse of being a nerd. You just had to do it the hard way. Hey, you just couldn't use Microsoft.
Well, so I've done the podcast on 3 different setups now, and they've worked on all of them, including this one, up until about 2 months ago. Then there was a driver update, and there's this constant stuttering where it's almost like a strobe is playing on the Zoom side of things. So the video just cuts out so often, it's not worth it. But we also end up getting better quality through Video Ninja, because the audio and video isn't compressed. It is for the group scene that everyone participates in, but when I bring it into OBS, it's like just straight. It's like the limit is the bandwidth of my connection.
Nice. Was there any connectivity issues during the stream, where like, because that's where I've noticed sometimes where I'm doing a live stream thing where I'm kind of like a little laggy.
Yeah, I noticed. So it's only happened so far with you and with Emergent Reasons. But I've noticed that it seems like the time it takes for the audio to deliver to you is behind by like maybe a second. But
right, I think that's why we started talking over each other for a brief second there. I was like, what's going on?
There is some latency settings I can play around with, but like there's too many options with Video Ninja. So I've been slowly kind of working through it.
Where are you guys based out of?
I'm in New Brunswick.
I'm in the UK.
As soon as you were talking about Halifax, I was like, holy shit, I've been there. Like, that is a shithole.
Yeah, man. Gottingen Street up in the Commons, man. It's super sketchy. I used to go to the, what was it? The Marquee on the Gottingen. And it was such a cool, like, live venue. And then it got sketchy.
All right, I'm going to kill the stream.
Seahorse moved there for a bit. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, the Seahorse is still a thing. I used to be
cool.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna kill the stream. Thanks everyone for helping out. We'll debug this another time.
Thanks everyone.